Welcome to this lesson on the energy processes that cause water to move around in the water cycle.
Chemical reactions, water balance control, and electrical conduction take place in organisms living in the water and on land. Precipitation reactions happen in the sea. Keep the diagram in front of you for this lesson so you can add information as we go. Now we will look at the 3 ways in which heat energy affects a body of water. Firstly, heat affects the evaporation. Secondly, the condensation. And thirdly, the density of a body of water. We will start with the importance of evaporation from the rivers and oceans. Whenever we discuss energy, we need to start at the source. On Earth, we have one major source of energy, the sun. The sun is constantly transferring heat energy to the Earth. But what, I hear you ask, does this have to do with the water cycle? The heat from the sun heats water molecules until some of the molecules have enough kinetic energy to overcome the intermolecular forces that hold them together, break through surface tension, and move off into the atmosphere. That is, the water molecules evaporate. So, if the sun is a constant heat source, why does all the water on Earth not just evaporate? Well, this is the beauty of studying energy transfers. When fast-moving water molecules break through the water surface to change phase, they have high kinetic energy. This kinetic energy leaves the liquid water with them. This means that when water evaporates, the average kinetic energy of the liquid water decreases and the liquid water cools down. If this process was happening without the sun constantly transferring more energy into the water would eventually freeze. But of course, it doesn't. This cycle of energy transfer ensures that the water temperature stays pretty much constant. Do you think this is true for all substances? Here's an example to think about. Imagine you are standing barefoot next to a river on a hot day. What would the soles of your feet feel like standing on the sand? What would they feel like in the water? Both the sand and the water receive the same amount of energy from the sun, but I'm sure you'll agree that your feet may be burning on the sand, which is hotter, while the cool water will soothe your feet. In other words, if 1 kilogram of water and 1 kilogram of sand receive the same amount of energy, the change in temperature of the water is smaller than the change in temperature of the sand. If the same amount of energy was received by these substances, but the temperature of the water did not increase as much as the sand, it must mean that some energy has been stored inside the water. For this reason, large bodies of water like the oceans are a very good heat storage system. Now let's move on to exploring energy changes during the process of condensation. This time the energy changes are exactly the opposite of those taking place in evaporation. You see, as water vapor molecules move away from the heated Earth's surface into the atmosphere, they are likely to lose some of their kinetic energy as the atmosphere becomes cooler. This means that they can move closer to each other and become more and more attracted to each other. In this process, new hydrogen bonds can form and the vapor molecules will start to condense to form liquid droplets. Remember, during evaporation, water absorbs energy to break hydrogen bonds. Well, if condensation is the opposite of evaporation, then energy must be radiated out when new hydrogen bonds form between water molecules. When this happens, the temperature of the molecules around the water that is being formed goes up, and the water can actually evaporate as fast as it condensed. Only when the temperature of the air is cool enough is there more condensation than evaporation. When this happens, visible clouds form. So, when evaporation takes place, heat energy is absorbed to break hydrogen bonds, but during condensation, energy is released while hydrogen bonds form. In both these phase changes, the overall temperature remains constant.
Evaporation and condensation explain the changes from liquid to gas and from gas to liquid. But what happens to make liquid water freeze or when ice melts? Can you work out what energy changes take place here? Let's hear from Nelly again.
In the process of melting, heat energy is absorbed to break the hydrogen bonds, and in the process of freezing, energy is released as hydrogen bonds are formed. But remember, the overall temperature during phase changes remains constant. This is clearly shown on the heating curve of water. Notice that these phase changes for water happen at very different temperatures. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level and freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. The average temperature on Earth is about 15 degrees Celsius, so water on Earth is mostly found as a liquid. Even when the temperature of the air rises, the temperature of the water remains constant because heat is stored in the water rather than causing an increase in temperature. In this way, a large body of water will absorb lots of energy during the day from the sun, but its temperature will not change much. During the night, it will slowly release this heat and keep the environment around it warm.
Okay, Nelly, now that we know about melting and freezing, tell us what is special about the density of water?
We know that as water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, it becomes less dense. We know this because ice floats on top of water. But did you know that water is at its most dense at about 4 degrees Celsius? This means that as water cools, it becomes denser until it gets to freezing point, and the solid ice formed is actually less dense than water. This is an interesting phenomenon in lakes in winter. You see, the surface of the water becomes cooler and more dense. As the water becomes denser, it sinks. This begins to slowly cool the whole water body. But when the temperature of the lake reaches 4 degrees and the water on the surface chills further, it suddenly becomes less dense and stays on the surface as a layer that eventually becomes ice. This stops the water further down from getting any colder, and the organisms living in the lake survive because the water never reaches a temperature lower than 4 degrees Celsius. A similar thing happens in the oceans at the poles. The only difference is that the water just below the ice becomes more salty because ice is made of pure water molecules only.
We have covered a lot about water so far. Let's get Nelly to summarize what we have learned.
The survival of organisms in different seasons is made possible because bodies of water remain at a constant temperature. This is also due to hydrogen bonding. Evaporation is also important. When we sweat, it cools us down. Condensation is important for forming clouds, which can lead to precipitation. The fact that water is less dense than ice means that it insulates the water beneath it when the air temperature is cold, keeping organisms alive in the water of lakes and in the oceans at the polar regions. Water is a very good solvent, which means that ionic substances can dissolve in it, and so chemical reactions can take place in organisms and they can regulate their water balance. The dissolved substances in water can also form precipitates that are useful to water organisms and humans alike. Dissolved ionic substances also allow electricity to be conducted through water. This is useful when nerve impulses are conducted through the cells of organisms with a nervous system. The gases that dissolve in water are essential for respiration and photosynthesis in water organisms.
Water certainly is unique. There is no other substance that could sustain life in the same way as water. Grade 10s, join us again to find out about South Africa's water supplies. You'll also find more information on our website at www.mindset.co.za/learn. Goodbye.